Awesome. Congressman Williams, excellent to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, you're a congressman from Texas. You used to be Secretary of State. I think you have a very acutely interesting perspective on the border and the realities at the border. Let's talk about that today.
Well, the border is not a made-up crisis. As you said, I was Secretary of State under Governor Perry, and I did a lot of work at the border. And being a Texan, we have issues down there, and the issues are, frankly, people that are coming over here for a lot of good reasons. We realize our country is the greatest country, but we have people coming over here that want to harm us. We have the drug issue is a serious issue down there. This is not a made-up crisis, and we got drug dealers coming into this country. They're destroying our generations of young people, and we've got to address it. And President Trump is right in addressing it. And if you want to, we are a land of laws, and if you want to realize the American dream or come over here and work, you need to do it legally and not illegally. And throwing rocks at our border patrol and burning flags is not the way to do it.
So, we know it's a real crisis based on, let's say we know it's a real crisis. How does a border wall or some kind of barrier, how does it help? Because there's lots of people saying it doesn't actually make any difference.
Well, we know that it does make a difference, but when you talk about a wall, I think a wall in itself is generically, for years I've talked about 5,000 more Border Patrol on the border, people doing business with people. Right. For years I've talked about technology like we all have, and whatever that is. It adds to some safety. Yeah. And then I think you can increase the size of the ports of entry, make them more attainable. To where people can come through legally, and then there's going to be brick and mortar. I mean, that's the combination of things that I think the president is really talking about, and we need that. We know that barriers do work, and all we want is people to come through the ports of entry, not between the ports of entry, and realize lawfully what this great country has to offer.
So, as Secretary of State, I'm sure you encountered a number of, cases, problems related to the border. Do you have any one that comes to mind?
Well, I remember one issue. I was on the border, and a caravan was coming in, and we were receiving these people at the McAllen sector. Okay. And you would go in there, and you would see women separated, men separated, their spouses or whatever separated. And that rings home to you, but these people are coming over here in most cases for the right reason, but they can't do it illegally. The thing that I remember though is being in that group and with the head of the Border Patrol, and he said that's exactly what we don't need, what we're not trained for. And what he was pointing to was a Border Patrol handcuffed to one of the worst persons you could find that had come up from South America, handcuffed to that person, and had a little 2 or 3 year old tugging on his leg, wanting something, water or something. And that's when he said, we're not trained for that. And that's a view I've had in my mind forever. And that's exactly the reason we need more help down there. We need to get people coming here legally and not illegally and realize the American dream. It's as simple as that.
So, we've actually interviewed quite a number of sheriffs from the border that have basically told us things along the line of, yes, the barrier actually reduces crime. In some cases, the sheriff in Yuma, for example. In other cases, we've learned how it basically, forces people to go through other angles. But there's also this kind of backlog in the system, which might get people to be, trying to cross in an illegal way when they might do it normally.
Well, there is a backlog. We need more judges down at that's what President Trump has talked about. We need more judges to handle the cases through. Sometimes you take these people and you send them to a relative they may have in the United States and ask them to come back 6 months from now or a year from now. They never show. And that's not the way to do it, but we need more judges, and we're in the process of being able to do that, to run the cases through quicker than we do now.
So, and tell me a little bit about your perspective on the administration and overall the work that it's done with respect to trying to secure the border.
Well, I think they've done a good job. President Bush addressed it, but also let's go back in history. President Trump has addressed it, President Bush addressed it, President Obama addressed it. They all realized they had but so much of the press is disliking this president, they make it sound like he's the first time to do things down there, which is not necessarily the truth.
I mean, there's videos of President Obama saying things that you would see President Trump saying.
No, exactly. And you look at Democratic leadership back in 06 and 08, they're saying everything that President Trump is saying now, but it's President Trump, so they're against it. And so he's done the right thing to secure the borders, but it's this drug thing too. Look at every day the amount of drugs we read and see that are captured down there, and it doesn't matter if they're going through the ports or between the ports, they're captured. And when you capture drugs that are capable of killing 1 million or 100 million people, it's unbelievable. We need to secure the border, and that's a job of this president, and he's doing it. He's trying to get it done in spite of some of the pushback from the liberals.
Well, and that's what our reporters are actually hearing, that it's the drugs and the human trafficking actually that really contribute to making this a crisis, that the people that maybe are legitimately or just looking for a better life, they're kind of used by these groups.
Women and children are used by these groups to get drugs across, and trafficking, like you brought up, it's a humanitarian issue. We're a compassionate nation. That's one reason we need to build barriers to make sure people understand. Go through the ports of entry, realize the dream, but don't throw rocks and burn flags.
Thank you, Congressman Williams. Such a pleasure to have you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah,
thank you for
great.
having us.